Good morning, everybody. Hello, and welcome to the 2020 edition of the Walk of Champions. My name is Devin Peacock. I host the morning show on 980 CFPL, and this is my second year hosting the event. I'm honored to be involved once again. I know the preference would be to be doing this in person and be back at the Dorchester Fairgrounds, but I think the dedication to the event this year to make the virtual walk as successful as possible just underscores the perseverance of everyone in this group, the survivors, the doctors, the volunteers, everyone. So I think everyone should be complimented for their grit and determination. This event, of course, is important to help raise funds for clinical trials, and I'm really excited for what comes next. I had the pleasure of talking to Lisa Bowden earlier this week on air to promote the walk and everything happening today. 980 CFPL will have a story up this morning online at 980cfpl.ca, so hopefully we can grow some awareness and keep this going. I'll also point out that on your screen, there should be a link to donate, so every dollar counts. We've got a full program for you, so I will stop talking. I'll turn this over to the people you want to hear from today. Our first speaker is Dan Childerhouse, one of the founding members of the Walk of Champions, which began back in 2009. He is a myeloma survivor. Dan will be speaking about the history of the walk and its successes to date. So Dan, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Devin. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dan Childerhouse. First, I want to thank everyone who is taking part in this year's virtual 2K, 5K Walk of Champions. Today, I'm going to let you know how the annual walk got started and how it has progressed over the years. The walk originally started in 2009 by the late Keith Fleming and myself. We were both members of the Dorchester Optimist Club. Keith had myeloma before I did, and he said that he used to go to the Toronto walk for myeloma as that was the only one available at the time. He said it was a very long and tiresome day for a myeloma patient. At that time, the money went to Princess Margaret as it was the only hospital that did any research and trials for myeloma. He would get up around 5 o'clock in the morning to get ready to leave for Toronto from his house to participate in the walk and activities and then drive back home again that night. It was very long and tiresome for him. We started thinking that we should start our own walk in London or somewhere around London so it wouldn't be such a long, tiresome day. Since we were both members of the Dorchester Optimists, we asked the membership if we could hold the walk from the Optimist Hall. I measured out a 2K walk and a 5K walk so people could do either a 2K or 5K because he said 5K was quite tiresome for him and other myeloma patients would feel the same way. We managed to get the use of the hall and kitchen for no charge at all. We decided to hold the walk on the third Sunday of August and not to charge for registration, and we would supply t-shirts, cold foods, and drinks for free. The whole idea was supposed to be a friendly family get-together, like a picnic sort of thing. So people could come out and either walk whichever distance they wanted or just come out and support everyone. Our first walk, we weren't inspecting a lot of participants or donations. The main thing we wanted was to make the awareness of the disease and have a good time on our Sunday morning and afternoon. We looked for and found organizations to support the walk by donating $300 or more to help pay for the costs of the walk and t-shirts, which worked out very well. We managed to get about 60 participants with $12,000 in donations, which we were very proud of. All this money went to Princess Margaret in Toronto. The next year, the participants and donations doubled. After 4 years, Keith and I were both on the steering committee and asked if we could give our donation money to Victoria Hospital to help out patients in our own area as they started trials at the hospital here. After long discussions with the committee, we did decide to give all the donation money to London at Victoria Hospital. And to date, we have raised over $600,000. Each year, we would get more and more participants and donations. Eventually, we were getting so many people that we had to set up a couple of tents outside on the front lawn. And the parking lot was overflowing, so we started to look for another location to hold the walk. Finally, we decided to hold it at the Dorchester Fairgrounds. This was a much bigger facility and the parking was more than enough. And we have been at this location for the last 3 years. Last year, we raised over $100,000, which was remarkable, something that none of us thought we would reach so soon. And now we have this year, which is quite a different situation. We would never have known. And this is why the only way we can have a walk this year is to hold it virtually. You can walk around your own neighborhood or anywhere you wish. And we all thank you very much for keeping the annual walk to continue without any disruptions. And we hope to get back to normal next year. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dan. It's nice and great to hear how this all began, and just goes to show what a group of strong-minded individuals can do when they put their minds to it. Our next speaker is Craig Corman, a myeloma clinical trial survivor who will be speaking about his journey and his experience with a clinical trial through the London Regional Cancer Program. He has prepared a video for us. Let's check that out.
Hi, my name is Craig Corman, and I'd like to take a minute to talk to you about the importance of clinical trials in regards to multiple myeloma. I'm presently on a clinical trial, but before I discuss that, I'll just give you a brief history of my treatment. I was diagnosed in 2006, and at that time there wasn't that many drugs available, so I opted for a stem cell transplant. So I had a stem cell transplant, which wasn't too bad, and fortunately for me, it lasted for 5 years, and I had good quality of life, was on no drugs, but then unfortunately I knew it would relapse, and it relapsed in 2012 or 13. So in September 2013, they offered me a second stem cell transplant. So I did that, and unfortunately I only got a year out of that, but again, a year's a year, so that was good. And then the option available to me is a new drug was approved. Now, when I was first diagnosed, this drug wasn't available. It was in the clinical trials through the States, and then eventually approved through Health Canada, and it's called Revlimid. And fortunately, because of all these clinical trials, that drug was available for me because it was approved by Health Canada. So I took it. It was a pill you could take at home, which was nice. And I got 4 years remission out of that. So I was pretty happy. That drug is sort of a game changer for myeloma. So that relapsed just 2 years ago. I guess it'd be about May 2018. And so I had some drugs that were approved through clinical trials also still available to me, but my oncologist talked to me about a clinical trial if I was interested. And I said, well, I'd be interested in hearing about it. So the clinical trial coordinator and my oncologist sat down with me and they described all the health advantages to a clinical trial. Is you're helping people down the road, which is good. You're helping yourself, and then you're getting drugs that are available to you that aren't available in most cases to the general public. So I thought, well, I'll do this clinical trial because I still have these other drugs. So I went into the clinical trial, and I was discussed the safety benefits of being in a clinical trial, the health benefits, um, and the risk too. There is risk, so I was just explain that. So I agreed to go into this clinical trial, and the drug was called Darzalex. That's the name, or it is daratumumab, which I have trouble pronouncing, but Darzalex is easier to say. And basically, what my clinical trial was, people were getting this drug intravenously, but it was taking over half a day to get the intravenous and all this, and it's very time consuming. So they want to do a clinical trial to see if you can get an injection in your abdomen, if it would give the same benefits as the intravenous. So I agreed to that. So I went on into the trial with getting the needle in my abdomen, and not knowing if it would work or not, but I felt strongly there's a good chance it would work. So I did that, and I started that trial, like I said, May 2018, I believe. So it's over 2 years, and at the start, you have to go in every week, and then every 2 weeks, and then eventually, now I'm just going once a month. I have to take some pre-meds. I have to get my blood work done, and that's basically it. And once I take my pre-meds, I have to wait for an hour before they can give me the injection. So it's a 5-minute injection in my abdomen, and that's it. And then I can leave. And my quality of life has been great in the 2 years. It's no side effects. I've been very lucky. It's a great drug. And that's the importance of clinical trials. It helps people like me, and it helps all the myeloma patients in our community. So it's how could I say? It's just so beneficial to everyone. And our virtual walk, I'd like to welcome you to that, is very important for our clinical trials. All the donations and that go directly to LRCP, and they have control, and it goes to the myeloma population, and it's used for these clinical trials. So far, because of clinical trials, I've had the drug Revlimid, which gave me 4 years of extra life. Now I'm on Darzalex, and it's over 2 years. I'm still on it, going for it. So I've been about 14 years now with trying these. And these new drugs, there's a lot more drugs in the pipeline, but we need your support to bring these drugs into the clinic so people can do clinical trials, they can then improve and get used. But without donations and that, it's hard to do that because we have to pay for, the clinical trial coordinators, and it's just the whole gamut of things. So I appreciate your time, and I just want to emphasize the importance of clinical trials, how they've affected my life and many other people's lives. And thanks again for in our virtual walk and donations and everything. It's so much appreciated. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, Craig. That video was wonderful. The clinical trials are so important, so it's great to hear from someone who has gone down that path. Our next speaker is Dr. Martha Louzada, the lead on myeloma research at the London Regional Cancer Program and physician team member at the myeloma clinic at the program. Dr. Louzada, welcome.
Thank you, Devin. Hi, everybody. It's so good to be together again, even though we're not, really in-person meeting. I really miss the physical connection with all of you. One of the things I love about our walk, and I believe this is the 8th walk that we have in London for London proceedings. So I'm so thankful to all of you. I really miss the connection between, the families, the patients, myself, my family, our research group, our other physician colleagues that love multiple myeloma so much and love participating in your lives just like I do. But anyways, I'm really happy to be here today with you guys to share this one more moment of happiness, hope, and really fight against multiple myeloma.
Thanks for that. Let's do a quick Q&A here. Just to start, how important is this event in helping raising funds for clinical trial?
It's extremely important, Evan, because the funds help us in several different ways. So we have the funds helping us with the database that we run. It's a multiple myeloma database centered in Toronto. It's a cross-country database. And we have the funds helping us to deliver the database, keep it up to date with our London patients. And one thing I want to thank all of the patients is that we have 99.9% of patients accepting to participate in the database, letting the unidentified data on their disease progression to be part of this big group and really help in research. We've been able to publish several different articles using our myeloma database information together with our other colleagues across Canada. On top of this, the funds from the Walk of Champions have funded a few trials, a few smaller studies that are really born here in London. So the two most recent ones we have are the Rhythm trial that's finished in London, but we still have a few other centers running in Ontario. And we have now a new proposal that our multiple myeloma support group have just agreed to release some funds, which is going to be looking into something really novel, which is a novel protein to try to measure the disease burden and response to disease treatment. So this is really outbreaking, and our group with the Walk of Champions is funding that. So this is very important and makes us all really happy.
I was just about to ask about some of the trials we have currently going and are planning, so that's great to hear. Do you think London will be able to get a CAR T trial or a BITES trial at some point?
Yeah, well, we're looking forward for this. We're working hard for this. So for that part, we've been working with our bone marrow transplant team. The bone marrow transplant team is working on all the paperwork that's required for us to have CAR T cells. Right now, I believe that the greatest barrier to have a CAR T trial is really Health Canada, and I understand it because we have to have a certain excellence, a pattern of excellence in the hospital to be able to move on with those trials. We do have the practical excellence, but we don't have the paperwork ready. So this paperwork has actually been going on now for 2.5 years, and we're hopeful that we'll be able to get the accreditation that we need within the next 6 months to a year at the most. And then all we'll need is really to have the companies coming with the BITE trials and the CAR T cell to London. Right now, we only have in Canada, Toronto, and there are hopes for Ottawa, Montreal, and perhaps Calgary to lead trials as well. But right now, this is what we have in terms of positive CAR T cell trials coming up to Canada.
Are you finding more patients are willing to participate in clinical trials than, say, 5 years ago?
That's a difficult question. I think it's hit and miss. I think it's a lot to do with the patient personal experience and understanding. I have to say that a lot of our patients want to participate in clinical trials, and sometimes they're upset if they're not candidates, even if I'm able to give them the best treatment possible. Sometimes we have a clinical trial that's not sometimes, actually a lot of times we're working clinical trials that work with the standard of care versus a new drug, and the patient is a perfect candidate for the standard of care or the new drug combination. And for some reason, they're not able to participate in the clinical trial. They're upset because they wanted to, help others with their data, not because they're not getting the newer drug, because they know they still can get, good treatment with the standard of care through the regular routine treatment avenue. So we do have a lot of patients that are willing, but we still have those that think they're guinea pigs. And I have to say, this is mostly like the more elderly patients. They think they're guinea pigs, and it's not that, right? We know it's not that. We know that research is built in a lot of steps, and when they come to the humans, it's because a lot of those steps have been actually trialed in guinea pigs and other animals, and then we have sometimes healthy volunteers experiencing the drugs, or we have patients that are very, very sick that start experiencing the drugs. So it's at least 5 or 6 steps before they actually come into place and come to us for a larger clinical trial. But the one point that I wanted to make is that because we notice an opening in our patients' way into looking to clinical trials, we've been able to start some earlier phases clinical trials. So we're just being worked up with our research ethics board to start our first phase 1 clinical trial. So the phase 1 is when you have only, a handful of patients entering the trial to really test the drug effects in the patient system regarding positive results and also adverse events. So we're going to be spearheading this phase 1 clinical trial with Bristol Myers Squibb. That's going to be coming up hopefully soon. The trial was actually to be running already, but with the COVID, everything has been put on hold. But we're hopeful that we'll have the clinical trial coming up.
How are trials promoted to patients and their caregivers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we try to, on the day-to-day routine. So the physicians are responsible for inviting the patients to participate in the clinical trials. We only really broadcast when we know the patient needs it. Otherwise, every patient that is not a candidate but is willing to get something new, they will want to participate, and that can get a lot of anxiety, I think, among the patients. I do think that perhaps we should have a better communication if the heads of the myeloma support group in London want. We could give them some updates, like more accurate and frequent updates regarding the trials that are going through. We do meet a few times a year and we go over all of that, but maybe we should have, because we have things happening all the time, even though I think they're slow, they're always happening. So I think this is a place where we have some room definitely to improve, but we never miss offering a study for a patient when we see the patient in clinic. So the way it happens is we explain a little bit of the clinical trial. If the patient appears to be accepting the idea of participating in the trial, then our research coordinator comes in place, gives more detailed explanation, and the patients take a written summary of what the trial entails, and then there is a consent that the patient needs to sign. But it's important that the patient and caregivers know that if a patient accepts to participate in a clinical trial, even if he or she want to quit the trial at some point, they can, because nobody's attached to it. The patient is completely free to start and finish whenever he or she want to, if they think it's not a good idea for them, even after they sign the consent.
2020 has been a year to remember for all the wrong reasons.
Yes.
I think we're always looking for optimism, and when you look at what's going on right now, there is some optimism in there. So what makes you most optimistic as we sit here today about what the future could bring?
Well, one thing that we know about our London patients is that we overall in our cancer patients, hematology cancer patients, we haven't had any COVID, severe COVID cases. So this is a must. I think COVID has brought to the people in general a feeling of union and unity. Hope. I think we've been developing more and more hope. I think we've been together with our families more as well, which in part makes it better. And I feel overall, especially at the hospital, a beautiful sense of respect that not always we would see. So it's a two-way respect that I see amongst the various people that get together in the day-to-day routine in clinic, and that makes me happy. I think COVID is terrible because it's been taking the lives of so many people, but the good part of it is the sense that life is more than simply getting things, right? We can get not material things, but we can get good bonds, emotions, and I think this is the good part of the bad stuff.
Well said. Any final comments before we move on?
Well, I would like to thank everybody from the myeloma support group for always being, behind and broadcasting for multiple myeloma cure and multiple myeloma hope. And I would like to say, like I think I say that every year, I am so proud to be part of this community, and I am so happy to be able to help patients that are suffering. I really have all of you very dearly in my heart. And yeah, I think if I continue to say more things, I'm going to start crying because I'm an easy crying person.
Dr. Lozada, I appreciate you joining us today, and thanks for all that you do.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I'd also like to thank Bill and Molly for their $100 donation. The donations are approaching, last I saw just a moment ago, about $50,000. So very well done towards the money raised this year. The community built by the support group and everyone connected to it is a wonderful one. It was great to meet so many of you last year. We all do this to raise money, of course, to support survivors, loved ones, and friends. Sadly, we do lose members of this great community. So we'll take a moment now to remember our Wall of Champions. Condolences to all those who have lost a loved one. They are gone, but certainly not forgotten. Our next and final speaker of the morning is Lisa Bowden, a myeloma survivor who will speak to her journey since being diagnosed and the importance of the walk in relation to research. Lisa, take it away.
Hello. Hi, Devin. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Good, good. So my story. I am a multiple myeloma survivor, almost 3 years now. I was diagnosed in November 2017. They called it lucky. I actually was having some blood work done for a life insurance policy renewal that came back with some concern. So lucky in terms of catching the myeloma early. That meant that they could start treatment as quickly as possible. And so my world obviously went into a bit of a tailspin. I was 3 years ago in September, looking at this blood work, and by November I was in chemotherapy. We started with a chemo regimen for 4 months, and the goal of that was to get my blood work numbers in line. In terms of preparing me for what they called a tandem autologous stem cell transplant. Believe me, I've learned a lot of new words in this journey. So autologous means they're using your own stem cells that they harvest from your body just before the transplant. And tandem meaning I was going to have 2 transplants almost back to back. So I had my first one in April of 2018, and that was tough for sure. They basically give you very high dose chemotherapy, which takes you to a very weak and vulnerable state. So you are hospitalized. I was in for almost a month at that time. Then came home, and the initial thought was to put me back in for the second transplant in approximately 3 to 4 weeks. When I came out, I certainly had a good opportunity to chat with my doctors, my hematologist, Dr. Pua, and my stem cell doctor, Dr. Diotari, and said I, just wasn't ready to go back in that quickly. They listened, which was great. I think that's a key message I want to send out to any patients that are listening and looking at their treatment plans. Talk to your doctors. They do listen. So the second one didn't happen until right at the end of July into August of 2018. So it gave me a good chance to get my head around it, rest up a bit. And I was back in for approximately a month. That was a rough go because you're already in a weakened state to go back in, and you go through the same procedure. The folks on the 7th floor of London Health Sciences Centre are amazing. Can't say enough about the nursing staff, the PSWs, the doctors, everybody that tended to me, the dietitians. It was incredible. So had those 2. Had 100 days upon release to get back to some type of new normal, build up my strength. And from then in December 2018, I've been put on a maintenance therapy. So that involves oral medication, some done at the chemo center. And it's maintained my myeloma in check to this point. So it's been a journey. It's been tough at times. It's been amazing having the support of the London Myeloma Support Group. I'll say it many times over. They are a great resource and a great place to gain support and also learn about myeloma. It's been said many times when you're diagnosed, oftentimes you've never heard of multiple myeloma. So it's a tough thing to get your head around. Hearing a cancer diagnosis period is hard, but something that you don't even understand or aren't aware of. The groups that are available in your areas, certainly London, we surround a community, and we talk as patients, caregivers, we learn, we have guest speakers. It's been wonderful. So that's my journey to this point. I am very, very hopeful to the future. Every day they're learning more about myeloma. It is a thing that is very individualized for the patient. So everybody's story is not the same, but there are similarities. And I have to say the treatments that are coming out look like they are, more customizable to the individual patient's care as well. So let's get out. I'm hoping, I want to wish everyone well on the walk today, kind of as my final note here. The sun is starting to shine, so let's get out and do our walk and get our funds raised for LRCP so that we can find a cure. Thanks very much.
Lisa, thank you for sharing your story and for inviting me to be a small part of all of this. The sun is shining. It's nice that it's stopped raining for the walk here.
Yeah.
We are almost at the end of our virtual ceremony, but not before we get warmed up to go for the walk for a great cause. Truth be told, the real reason I was recruited for this was I'm in peak physical condition, so I'm perfectly suited to do the warm-up this year. I do believe we have some warm-up music to lead us all through a quick warm-up. I'm holding my phone here, so I'll describe the warm-up exercises you can do. They're all pretty easy. If you do them each for about 30 seconds, you should be good to go. We can just start with some ankle circles. So if you just stand on one foot and lift the other off the ground, just slowly flex that ankle through its full range of motion, just making circles with the toes. If you do 6 to 8 in each direction, and then switch feet and repeat, you should be good with the ankle circles. It's good just to get the whole part of the leg ready to go and for the walk. And it's obviously warming up is a big part of exercise and walking and being active. So it's just one, obviously each ankle, and then the next quick exercise would be leg swings. So this is similar to the ankle circle, except it's for the leg. So if you stand on one leg and swing the other loosely from the hip, just front to back, just use a relaxed motion like the swinging of a pendulum. Your foot should swing no higher than a foot off the ground. If you do 15 to 20 swings with each leg, you'll be doing very well. I do a lot of these exercises myself. When I go out for some steps, I try to get as many as I can each day, which is sometimes a bit more difficult when we're all in this pandemic. If you're working from home and not as out and about as much as you normally would be. So again, that's just standing on one leg and swinging the other loosely from the hip, just front to back. And it'd be just like a pendulum, just back and forth. And 15 to 20 swings with each leg. After we have our ankle circles and leg swings, we can try some pelvic loops. So just put your hands on your hips with your knees just slightly bent and feet shoulder width apart. Keep your body upright and make 10 slow continuous circles with your hips, just pushing them gently forward to the left and back and then to the right again. Then reverse the directions and repeat. So again, it's just putting your hands on your hips and bending gently with your feet shoulder width apart. Keep your body upright, make it nice and slow with the continuous circles with your hips, pushing them gently forward to the back, left and to the right, and then reversing directions and repeating. And then just finally, we'll do some arm circles. Hold both arms straight out to your sides and make 10 to 12 slow backward circles with your hands, starting small and finishing with large circles, then using your entire arm to shake your arms out and repeat with 10 to 12 forward circles. So that's just holding both arms straight out to your sides and making 10 to 12 slow backward circles with your hands, starting small and finishing with large circles using your entire arm. Just shake your arms out, then repeat with 10 to 12 forward circles. And once you've done that for about 30 seconds, you're good to go. I hope everyone's warmed up and ready. The sun is shining. It is a beautiful morning after all that little rain we got this morning. So nice that the rain could get out of the way for the walk. Thank you to everyone who participated in today's virtual event, to everyone who planned it, to everyone who will be walking, and to everyone who has donated. Every bit goes a long way. It's time to go out for the walk. Have fun, stay safe, and we'll see you next year. Have a great Sunday.